So the topic given me is Catholic education, sustainable development, and integral ecology. So there are three important topics here: sustainable development, integral ecology, and Catholic education. So as introduction, uh, I have this Pulse Asia research last June 2024, but sad to say I cannot show to you how as I prepared it because this is now in PDF form. But anyway, what I would like to say here is in this um, survey, the top concerns and needs of the Filipinos are not on ecology, but really on basic human needs, like as Governor Lito Coscolwela said, um, it's PTK, no, or PTIK. What matters most for Filipino, according to Shell Habito, is presyo, trabaho, and kita. And that's precisely what came out of the survey. And corruption also follows that, so it's a good thing. But environment and territorial integrity are close to the bottom, no? And of course, Chacha at that time was the last 1% only. I, I I would like to start with this because you know how important it is in our Catholic education to also connect our spirituality, our faith with the care for creation. So, in order to help our kapwa Filipinos to really have this sense of stewardship or even care for our common home, we need to connect food security and livelihood with the care for our common home. So maybe we could find ways in our courses, in our classes, formation, to connect this care for the common home with food security and livelihood because after all, they are very much connected. So regarding sustainable development, anyway, you will have the next 3 days discussion on this. So, but somehow, based on this slide, Philippines improves in 2024 on Sustainability Development Index. We rose 6 ranks higher. We are now on we are now 92, 92nd out of 167 countries. And somehow the top 10, you can see there, mostly European countries. And it's sad to note that the bottom 10 are mostly from Africa. So here you can see the rank of the Philippines is 67.47. Rank 92, but the score is 67.47, and it's a little bit higher than the world average. No, and yet when it comes to whether it is decreasing, stagnating, or moderately improving, or we are on the right track, you can see in this slide that somehow climate action is decreasing, and somehow in these 8 areas of the SGG, we are stagnating, and equally the remaining 8 we are moderately improving. We are not yet on target. So the Philippines is not yet on track to sustainability. So it's a big challenge also for us as Catholic institution, how we can contribute to really making sure that our country will be on track as regards sustainable development. Our present situation is, of course, we know already, we all experience the climate change, which is already a climate emergency. And it is largely due to abusive human systems. So we call it anthropocentrism. No, it's a misunderstanding of the mandate of Jesus in Genesis to go and subdue the earth, and the interpretation is we can do anything we want with creation. So human systems caused climate change, started with the Industrial Revolution, And the rise of greenhouse gas emissions like carbon dioxide and methane hit our atmosphere. And so it's very obvious that we are the ones mainly who are causing this climate emergency. And so we have this global warming now. And supposed to be the government has decreed moratorium for coal, but then there are still companies who are expanding their coal-fired power plants. And now the government is engaging in the use of LNG or liquefied natural gas, which is also emitting methane. And that's another fossil fuel. And so that would contribute greatly also to the greenhouse gases. So it's very clear that the climate scientists have stressed the need to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius maximum by the end of this century. And yet, look at where we are now. February 2023 up to January last year, we already reached 1.52 degrees centigrade. That's the world's first year-long breach of key warning limit. Kaya sinasabi natin, global boiling na. Our house is on fire. Sabi pa nga ni Greta. So all the more in this context, the need for integral ecology. And it requires a paradigm shift, a change of mindset. No? And we are happy, we are grateful that after the Typhoon Yolanda or Typhoon Haiyan, Pope Francis gave us this gift, so-called Laudato Si, on the care for our common home. And he connected this with the cry of the poor. With this first social encyclical of his, he officially places the Roman Catholic Church behind the global environmental movement. And then here you can see the connection, the link, the union of science and faith. And the use of resources has already exceeded the ecological limits. And yet we fail still to alleviate poverty. Even our own country, there's still so many of our brothers and sisters who are living below poverty line. And there is the widespread technocratic paradigm, so much dependence on technology, and as if everything is solved. We see everything as a problem to be solved rather than a mystery to contemplate. No, and so in Laudato Si, the Holy Father really presented integral ecology and our ecological citizenship. Before we used to describe ourselves as Homo sapiens, no, a rational being. And now we are also looking at ourselves as an ecological citizen. And the Holy Father, since 2015, has really sounded the urgent call for a swift and unified global action. And yet, last 2 years ago, before Dubai, COP28, he lamented in his Laudate Deum that there is not much enough response to his call in Laudato Si. Somehow, our responses are very slow. There is no sense of urgency in people, and especially among our leaders, to really make sure to mitigate climate change and even to adapt to it. So let me now go to integral ecology. No, human ecology connects environmental and social concerns. In human ecology, the human ecology is a global term that refers to the relationship between humans and their natural, social, and cultural environments. That's from a theologian, Donald Dorr. But that is before Laudato Si. Human ecology is the primary means by which the Vatican spoke about the environment and linked it to the other social concerns, especially those regarding the inviolability of human life. So this is basically the perspective. And then with St. John Paul II, he contrasted human ecology with natural ecology or physical ecology. People are rightly worried, though much less than they should be, about preserving the natural habitats of the various animal species threatened with extinction. But too little effort is made to safeguard the moral conditions for an authentic human ecology. Between these two ecologies, human ecology and natural ecology, John Paul II was more worried about the more serious destruction of the human environment, something which is by no means receiving the attention it deserves. The 16th believed that issues affecting the natural ecology could not be properly addressed until issues affecting the human ecology were first corrected. This is evident in his famous argument that when human ecology is respected within society, environmental ecology also benefits. Now, what ecological framework is Pope Francis seeking for in Laudato Si? He said, and he wrote in Laudato Si number 137, it must be broad enough to have a vision capable of taking into account every aspect of the global crisis. It should be adequately interdisciplinary, that no branch of the sciences and no form of wisdom can be left out, and that includes religion and the language particular to it. Its liberative agenda must embrace an integrated approach to combating poverty, restoring dignity to the excluded, and at the same time protecting nature. Its ecological approach always becomes a social approach and must integrate questions of justice in debates on the environment so as to hear both the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. So here it even includes intergenerational justice. No? In theology, integral ecology was first used in 1995 by Brazilian liberation theologian Leonardo Boff, who called for an integral ecology that combined various approaches to the ecological crisis with a view to founding a new alliance between societies and nature. In today's scientific usage, integral ecology is a framework that allows all aspects of reality to connect with what has traditionally been associated with the scientific study of ecology. So Cardinal Turkson claims that integral ecology perspective was widely embraced as a paradigm due to its ability to articulate the fundamental relationships of the person with God, with him or herself, with other human beings, and with creation. This is what also Pope Francis wrote and described at length in Laudato Si. The limitations of the ecological stewardship perspective, because oftentimes we use stewardship, no? The Catholic social teaching on the theology of stewardship flows from the biblical view of the human being as the image of God and his or her vocation to care for the earth. Stewardship tends to assume that meeting the needs of human generations or providing the good of humanity is the reason of being of creation, as if God created everything solely for us human beings. But, even in the CBCP, in our pastoral letter, we wrote, we must remember that the riches of creation, the wealth of our land have been given by God so that a life of dignity can be enjoyed by all the inhabitants of our country and by future generations. So, meaning to say, it's not just for us humans even living now, but even we owe to preserve this common home for future generations. This is intergenerational justice, no? Our homeland has been entrusted to our care, and we are responsible for passing on a sound environment to generations yet unborn. This is a very important perspective. So we have to take note now that there is a shift from the concept of stewardship to care. Again, here's Cardinal Turkson, who is the head of the Dicastery for Integral Human Development, explaining Laudato Si according to the mind of Pope Francis. One can be a good steward, he says, without feeling connected. If one cares, however, one is connected. To care is to allow oneself to be affected by another, so much so that one's path and priorities change. With caring, the hard line between self and other softens, blurs, even disappears. So we now are shifting from using the word stewards to describe ourselves to loving companions. From stewardship, which is used only by Pope Francis in Laudato Si twice, to care, which is used by Pope Francis 33 times in Laudato Si. Ecological concerns are not just part of social concerns. In Laudato Si, the notion of integral ecology brings together the environmental, human, economic, social, cultural, and everyday life ecologies. So it's very comprehensive. It is all encompassing, no? You can read and reflect on Laudato Si numbers 138 to 155, as well as ethical principles, including the common good, human rights, intergenerational justice that I mentioned earlier, and the intrinsic value of nature. Following the impetus of Laudato Si, the CBCP approved in July last year to change the name of the Office of Ecology, which we call in PCP2 in 1991. It decreed, no, the PCP2 decreed that every diocese should have an ecology desk. But then, understanding integral ecology in this way, we are now calling our ecology desk to Integral Ecology Ministry. And in fact, before it is just like a desk in the Social Action Office. But now we are understanding that even social action is an integral part of Integral Ecology Ministry. We realize the urgency to institutionalize the Integral Ecology Ministry, IEM for short, as a priority pastoral concern, not merely as an appendage to social action. This is by the Mindanao bishops in their 17th Mindanao Sulu Pastoral Congress. No, it's just not just the bishops, but all the delegates, no, in this Mindanao Sulu Pastoral Congress last 2022 pa. Now, ecological concerns are interconnected to other concerns. The phrase "everything is interrelated" captures the vision of Laudato Si's integral ecology, which is a way of saying that enables us to perceive the interconnections among all things with whom we share the world. Integral ecology is a certain kind of gaze that seeks to perceive the interconnections in creation. For example, the conditions of poverty and all forms of social crisis are considered ecological aggressions against the most complex being of creation, the human being. And every time we have typhoons, always what is reported are just the loss of human lives. But we never mourn, and even we don't even consider the loss of biodiversity and the impact on the environment as well. No, the decline in the quality of their surroundings produces social tensions, violence, disease, malnutrition, and even death. And so you can see here that this is all interrelated. We are faced not with two separate crises one environmental and the other social, but rather with one complex crisis, which is both social and environmental. Laudato Si 139. Now, ecological concern is motivated by a certain kinship or strong relationship with creation. More than perceiving the external connections, could we understand the seamless interconnection among all creatures genetically? Because, there's even, I would wish I could show you a video from BBC that even the trees in the forest are constantly in conversation with one another to their roots, no? And there are even all the other beings are interacting constantly, no? The Franciscan worldview that says all creatures, great and small, are brothers and sisters, is not just something that is metaphorical, no? But it is, in fact, we are all brothers and sisters. Pope Francis says and writes, if we no longer speak the language of fraternity and beauty in our relationship with the world, our attitude will be that of masters, consumers, ruthless exploiters, unable to set limits on their immediate needs. By contrast, if we feel intimately united with all that exists, then sobriety and care will well up spontaneously. I like this quote very much. It is in Laudato Si number 11. So, meaning to say, aside from presenting truth and goodness, we need also to draw out the beauty. So that, as Saint Francis of Assisi was able to discover, the beauty in creation, he was able to connect with each one, and call them truly brothers and sisters. So everything is interconnected. It cannot be emphasized enough how everything is interconnected. Time and space are not independent of one another, and not even atoms or subatomic particles can be considered in isolation. A good part of our genetic code is shared by many living beings. So, for example, it is in another slide. Next slide. Let's take this for first. Each creature possesses its own particular goodness and perfection. Each of the various creatures, willed in its own being, reflects in its own way a ray of God's infinite wisdom and goodness. So they are not just created for our sake alone, to meet our own needs, but they are willed by God in themselves. Man being willed for their own sakes, ends in se, according to Aristotle, or are ends in themselves, according to Immanuel Kant. Human autonomy and human rights, we cannot instrumentalize human beings. It is also true with the rest of God's creation. In our time, the church does not simply state that other creatures are completely subordinated to the good of human beings, as if they have no worth in themselves and can be treated as we wish. This is the paradigm shift, and I hope in our teaching, we could really draw this line, that we could really emphasize this, because in the past, we never see it in this way. There is so much commonality in creation. So for example, just to prove this point, to add color to our scientific imagination, our DNAs are 90% in common with mice, dogs, cows, and elephants. 90%. Or 98 to 99% identical with chimpanzees. We are not gods. There is so much in common with us and the rest of creation. The nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made in the interiors of collapsing stars. We are made of star stuff, according to Sagan. So there is this illustration which I like very much, and I hope we carry this paradigm in our teachings from pyramidal that the man is on top, to circles of creation, that we are one among the many beautiful creatures of God. And we are supposed to care for one another. You know, we came much, much later. And the rest of God's creation was able to exist in peace without us. But we cannot exist without them. During the pandemic, that was also underlined very much. So regarding Catholic education, one of the Laudato Si goals is ecological education. And it's also related to at least 8 of the 17 SDGs. Ecological education is about rethinking and redesigning curricular and institutional reform in the spirit of integral ecology in order to foster ecological awareness and transformative action. Actions could include ensuring equitable access to education for all and promoting human rights, fostering Laudato Si themes within the community, encouraging ecological leadership of students, teachers, and ecological restoration activities. So it's SDG number 4, quality education. That is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. But sad to say, up to this time, despite slow progress, the world is falling far behind in achieving quality education, much more in the Philippines. No, you can see here, 84 million children and youth will be out of school. 300 million students will lack the basic numeracy and literacy skills. Only 1 in 6 countries will achieve universal secondary school completion target. So we are lagging behind in this target, no? And low and lower middle income countries face nearly 100 billion US dollars annual financing gap to reach their education targets. So that's a big challenge, no? In the Philippines, Catholic education against self-referential education, Pope Francis encourages education that is a part of the church that goes forth, a missionary church, standing by people at every step of the way, synodal church, an education in solidarity with others, the church of the we. If you want to use another image by Pope Francis, our schools should be seen as also field hospitals. In a world of violence and victims are all over the place, we should be able to welcome the victims even if our resources are limited. Field hospitals do not have all the supplies and the best laboratories, but they need to treat the victims of war as they come. So do with our schools. So like right now, we have evacuees because of Canlaon volcano eruption. And our St. Joseph of Canlaon College is housing 1,000 plus evacuees, no? And it's acting as field hospitals. So Laudato Si Action Platform, this is also identified by the Dicastery on Integral Development and the CBCP in our 2022 pastoral letter on climate emergency has also outlined this. And anyway, I will be sharing this with you, the slides, so you can go over this. But I would like to go to the 3 proposals as my last points. The first one is Laudato Si Schools Framework. This was developed by Living Laudato Si, primarily by John Leo Algo. This is a Catholic-inspired approach to initiating a holistic, sustainable transformation of Philippine schools, colleges and universities through educational contents, pedagogies, and environments that instill a culture of intergenerational ecological citizenship in words and action. Its intended outcomes include the following. The Laudato Si and its key principles are meaningfully integrated into the curriculum of the Catholic educational institutions. The campuses and operations of educational institutions are sustainable as defined by the SDGs, the Laudato Si goals, and other sustainability-related policies. And then the educational institutions are working together with nearby communities to protect their environment and promote ecologically sustainable actions or eco-actions in their daily living. Aligned with these targets, the Laudato Si Schools framework aims to achieve the following specific objectives: to integrate Laudato Si goals into the action plans of Philippine educational institutions toward improving their sustainability, provide guidance for Philippine educational institutions to determine programs and activities in their respective sustainability action plans that are aligned with eco-actions as defined in Catholic doctrines, and align the sustainability action plans of Philippine educational institutions with other sustainability-related frameworks and global and national policies and plans. So this is the cover of that LSSF. We can send to you I don't know if we have not received it through SIAP, we can send to you the soft copy of this. This is the intended outcome, no? So ecological education is very much related to the SDG number 4, 1, 3, 5, 10, 12, 13, 16 of United Nations, no? Here, sustainable development has this component of economic, social, and environmental, and it is very much aligned with integral ecology, which has also its economic, environmental, social, cultural, and daily life, the common good, and the intergenerational justice. So even integral ecology is even more all-encompassing. The 7 eco-actions of Laudato Si Schools frameworks are these following, no? The just transition to clean and sustainable energy. Part of that is maybe the school will have to be using renewable source of energy, no? Solar or windmill or whatever, no? Or hydro, if whatever is possible. Responsible water utilization, ecological solid waste management, also greening institutional management systems, divest, invest, no? So I hope the school is not investing on destructive enterprises or industries, and also that which will also harm the environment. And also campuses as a natural environment. Integrated ecological curriculum and environmental sustainability research. So there's the research component. Then the integrated ecological spirituality and transformative lifestyle, the SAPAT lifestyle. And then the policy advocacy campaigns and solidarity. In this LSSF, we have their outline. I will show you later on a sample of the page. Then it is also aligned with the GIPG component of the SIAP member schools, no? So you can see there the corresponding LSSF eco actions. And then in each eco action, there will be the objectives, the potential outcomes, the list of indicators. So it's easy to assess whether you are achieving the objectives. And then there is also the policy basis, from natural laws to SDGs to Laudato Si goals. And then there are recommended activities, no? So it will be easy for you. It will be a good guide, no? So this is an example of that page. You will see there, no? The I will enlarge it. You see the objectives, the possible outcomes on electricity, on energy efficiency and conservation, on transportation. So you have all the indicators there. Then recommended activities, no? So there is also the policy basis that you can consult, no? So it's all provided there to be easy for you when you have activities in the classroom or even as a university. And then there is the checklist here that will guide you to develop your Laudato Si action plan. No? So you have to start with your baseline data, reflect on your values, examine your options, set your goals, choose your actions, finalize the plan, implement the actions, monitor your progress, adapt your approach, and then renew your commitment. So this is example. No, there are attachment there. You can have the key result area there. No, so it would be easy for you. You can make a timeline. No, so it's all provided for you if you have not done it. So the next steps after LSSF would be development of a monitoring framework for participating schools, colleges, and universities. Potential Laudato Si action plan capacity building workshop during the season of creation. We started this last year, but we can go on every year, no? There's a planned presentation of best practices on ecological education during National Climate Change Consciousness Week. More educational institutions in the Philippines and elsewhere to craft their own Laudato Si action plans. So hopefully, no? And then future stock taking of best practices that we can submit to the Vatican and the Holy See. And that will make the Holy Father happy, really. So there is also this connection with the Philippine Development Plan and the National Environmental Education Action Plan. No? Then there's also the second proposal, which is on the rights of nature in the curriculum. This is another paradigm shift, no? In consonance with the integral ecology paradigm. The rights of nature is a legal and philosophical concept that recognizes the inherent rights of ecosystems and natural entities to exist, thrive, and evolve. Unlike traditional conservation efforts that often view nature as property to be managed for human benefit, rights of nature frameworks seek to grant legal standing to ecosystems, allowing them to be represented in court and granting them the right to exist, flourish, and regenerate their natural cycles. And so this is the framework, no, ecosystemic, no, interrelationship, interconnectedness, and interdependence, no. Recognizing and respecting the rights of nature has the power to change the direction humanity is taking our planet. Rights of nature is emerging as a powerful global movement to transform human consciousness, redesign failing consumptive economic and social structures, and create a framework for living in harmony with nature, rooted in the recognition of the rights of Mother Earth, grounded in the wisdom of ancient and indigenous cultures, and using the power of modern law. The rights of nature movement seeks to maintain a balanced relationship between humankind and every form of life, in recognition and respect for the natural balance of the biosphere. So, I mean, we are still having difficulty of having the bill torn into a law at the level of the national, no? But we have already local government units who have started to have their local ordinances, no, on the rights of nature. And then the last but not the least proposal is to develop further the integral ecology framework in the Philippine context. So these are the questions that we might want to reflect on to develop further this integral ecology framework on our context in the Philippines. What does it mean for the Philippine Church? How do we define integral ecology as a Philippine church? That we are, the most vulnerable, no, in terms of climate change. That, we are only producing 1% of the GNG, no, the greenhouse gas, and yet we are the ones that suffer the most in this area, no, the global south. And now they're talking about carbon credits, climate justice, So these are the things that we need to consider in this integral ecology framework. How do we develop a training program for our diocesan integral ecology ministries? And how can our Catholic schools prepare leaders who would be really our advocates and proponents to really promote integral ecology? How do we measure the preparedness of the Philippine Church to respond to the growing ecological crisis? How do we include all existing ecological programs and practices into an academic program that will showcase best practices, learnings, and highlight new schools of thought about integral ecology as experienced by Filipinos in the country and those working abroad or living abroad? How do we integrate into the framework ecological education the CBCP pastoral statements, particularly in 2019 and 2022? But we started the first ecological statement or pastoral letter in 1988. What's happening to our beautiful land? And it was quoted also by Pope Francis in Laudato Si. So how do we integrate all these past teachings, decisions, and the results of collective discernment of different groups? Please pray for us, because in this coming January plenary assembly, as we have committed in our 2022 pastoral statement about this non-acceptance policy of donations coming from those that are known to be destroying the environment or engage in activities that are anti-life, for example. We have to finalize the IRR, the guidelines, the implementing guidelines and rules, and policies, and also about divestment. We need to have these guidelines, and we are now preparing, so that we can present, because I am the one tasked to come up with our team draft that the bishops will study and approve eventually, that will be practiced for the whole country. So this is really the challenge. We do this, as Father mentioned at the beginning, out of sense of duty, but also out of sense of gratitude, to really invest now for our future, for those generation to come. This year, 2025, is the Jubilee year, and it's the beginning of the Beta generation already. And their parents are now the millennials, the Generation X. So we have to really think of them also, and those who will come after them. So thank you very much. I hope in the Q&A there will be more participation and some more insights. It's 38 minutes or 40 minutes maybe. Thank you.